Patch 13.15 has hit the live servers in North America this morning, and today we are gonna go over one of NA's best players. Yes, it is Dish Soap. Yes, I mean, oh, big surprise! Oh, I know, like I get it, but like his VODs are very accessible, and like I don't know, I watch his streams all the time. But so, fuck me, I guess. Yeah, I get it. Okay, shut up. Anyways. We're gonna go over Dish Soap's VODs today, and maybe you already know within the title or the thumbnail, or I don't know, but it's a Shifting Sands game. And for those of you who don't know why this is interesting, Shifting Sands just recently got a rework, where nowadays, but unlike before, where you used to get a magnetic remover, everybody gets Pandora's Bench. Now, there's a lot of discussion as to like what is the best way to play around this realm. The top answer being don't play this realm. This is a lottery realm. But other than that, there's a bunch of different ways to play around it, how to play standard in it, playing reroll as well. And in today's video, we're gonna go over Dish Soap's approach to Shifting Sands. Let's get on to today's video. All right, so here we go. Inside of, once again, another Dish Soap game inside of the Shifting Sands realms, the brand new realms with everybody getting a Pandora's Bench. Now, I personally was not the biggest fan when they announced these changes. I think the idea that everybody gets a Pandora's Bench just feels very lottery, very RNG. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. I would love to hear your opinion on this, but quite honestly, just feels like, hey, like if you just happen to find that 3 cost or 4 cost very, very early, it does not matter which one it is, just find one ASAP. Then you're able to reroll your units immediately, and then you're able to try to find those 4 stars, those 3 stars, the very important units that you're looking for before anybody else. The Pandora's Bench does take into consideration the unit pool, which is a very important thing to keep in mind. So for example, if everybody hits Zeri before you do, congratulations, you are no longer getting to play Zeri, because Pandora's Bench will never roll a Zeri for you. It will always make sure to keep the unit count inside the pool in mind. Now, going into the 2-1 augments here, now you might notice this show's actually running Ezreal here, which is kind of an interesting decision. Recently, right before this patch hit, onto the live servers, everybody was playing Ornn and a little bit of Azul for Dragon King and a little bit of Poro, and actually, Spicy Appies this entire time has been playing Ezreal, one of the premier slash I would say like the most comfortable person on the NA ladder, at least in higher elo, who just loves playing around Ezreal. Obviously, we did have that one patch where everyone was taking buried treasures, but ever since it got nerfed, people have been touching this augment a lot less. But now it seems that according to Dish Soap, he actually likes it a lot, especially because of Ezreal's 4-2 augments, well-earned comforts being one of the better legend augments in general, for being an augment that's supposed to be a little weaker compared to the other augments. Now, Buried Treasures itself is also a really nice augment to take in general, just because Buried Treasure allows you to sort of itemize all of your units. And what I mean by this is that nowadays a lot of comps, and I think Dish Soap actually said this in his VOD, but a lot of comps are now duo and even sometimes tertiary carry comps, where for example in Nox's reroll you have Darius and Katarina, inside of Zeri you have Zeri and Urgot, Aphelios is Aphelios and Urgot, you have Gwen Aphelios, you have a bunch of all these other compositions that revolve around at least 2 carries, and eventually sometimes even 3 when you hit the very, very late game. This means that taking something like Buried Treasures basically allows you to itemize all of your units. So it's not necessarily an insta-pick, but for it to be sort of an option that is available to you, it's really, really nice, especially with the Ornn, I believe the Ornn item nerfs that came along this patch. So Buried Treasures, Double Trouble, and Three's Company. Now, personally speaking, Double Trouble in this spot actually sounds not that bad. Also, Three's Company was actually catching my eye here a little bit, only because we are currently in Shifting Sands, and Three's Company basically gives you 4 3 costs to immediately start rerolling, and you can just basically play into whatever 3 cost reroll you think is best. Out of the current meta right now, I mean, it is only day 1 of the new patch. Nox's reroll still feels like about roughly the same level as it was before, maybe slightly weaker, only very slightly though. But Nox's reroll for the 3 cost rerolls, there's also, I believe, Action reroll still feels okay. I haven't actually been seeing it a lot recently. It was already starting to fall off a bit in terms of a comp compared to everything else, but also that was because it was an Ahri meta right before this patch. So I mean, is Three's Company, is Action reroll like that bad? I'm not necessarily sure. There's been a little bit of speculation that Echo reroll might be coming back with the 4 rogue buff. So Three's Company, I actually don't think is that bad from the spot. You can definitely just play around whatever 3 costs you manage to find from Three's Company. Double Trouble also allows you to play around Talia reroll as well. We do have Pandora's Bench, so that's also a very, very nice option as well. And again, we already talked about Buried Treasures and why Dish Soap might be leaning towards Buried Treasure in this scenario. All of these are actually good in my opinion. I don't know. At that point, it's just based off your playstyle. I think Dish Soap just doesn't like Double Trouble in general, so he rerolls the middle. Know Your Enemy, very strong augment in general, very strong generic augment. He actually rerolls over Three's Company as well. And we are left with Buried Treasures, Know Your Enemy, and Ionia Crest. Now, for our board, we do have a Set and 2 Zeds. So we do actually have a bit like a couple Ionia units available to us. But playing around Ionia Crest means we are playing around the Ionia Vertical, and it's not the strongest comp, at least before this patch, and now this patch hit, it's not that much better. I would still think that Ionia Challengers is roughly still around like an A tier comp in my opinion, but I haven't really seen it do and perform very well, but maybe I could be wrong in terms of my read. We are doing a meta analysis later down the line, so hopefully you'll see that in a couple of days and we'll have a better read on the meta. But out of all these options, Know Your Enemy seems to be the only sort of correct option. You could still take Buried Treasures as well. Our itemizations aren't that great. We do have Gargoyles and Tier open. This is a long discussion for the 2-1 augments, by the way. There's a lot to think about here. Quite honestly, if it was me, I think I would take Buried Treasures in this spot, but Know Your Enemy is also great. We do reroll, unfortunately, over the Buried Treasures. We hit Stars Are Born. Didn't pre-level before level 4, or rather before 2-1, so Stars Are Born is not really an option here. Know Your Enemy is the only option left, so we take Know Your Enemy here. So, looking at our shop here, we are going to eventually just tech into, I believe, a level 4 board with 3 Ionia and the tier 2 Samira on our board, and this is just kind of the board that we're playing. Obviously, we don't really have a direction just yet. Typically, when you have tank items for your slams in the 2-1 opener, you are sort of just left to your own devices, trying to figure out what am I going to play, what am I not going to play. We do have an open tier, but that could also be another tank item. It could also be another, a Shojin, mana generating item, something like Lux, somebody like Ari, but these are not sort of options that we like to think about like right off the bat just because we have a single tier. You could also think about potentially playing into something like an Azir, but Azir is a unit that really likes Shiv, which can kill the tier for us, but using a bow for Shiv and then kind of locking ourselves into Azir is not that great. The only real like other Shiv holder that I can think of off the top of my head is Kalista, but as you may or may not know, Kalista actually doesn't do a lot of AP. Actually, she does 0 AP. So Shiv is not that great on her. And actually, even though Shiv Kalista, if you ever look into the stats, is really great, I think we speculated, at least through my stream, that Shiv Kalista is sort of only really great because it's helping out Gwen. And Gwen is just an absolute unit. Actually, specifically this patch, if you haven't had a chance to try out Gwen, you definitely should. Gwen actually feels really good. Like, really good with the new AI. It's just a little difficult to get her online because, at least from my experience playing today, and if you came to my stream today, you know I kind of tilted today because I played so much Gwen. I tilted because Gwen feels really great when all of her conditions are in place, but one of those conditions is you kind of need an Aatrox. If you don't have an Aatrox on your board, Gwen feels like significantly... Like Aatrox on your board and Aatrox not on your board while you have a Gwen 2 carry, it's night and day. So really, that's something that, you got to keep in mind. This soap here, he actually goes to opt for the bow. It is a 3-cost bow, which is a really, really nice thing to be picking up here. One of the, the most expensive unit you pick up with the carousel plus a bow is really nice. Obviously, we are not shift slamming here. Shift slam, again, it's a really poor decision to be making here. And we see that this soap is going to keep the components open. He does, in fact, actually level to 5 here. And you might have noticed he didn't actually make 10 gold going into 2-5, which is kind of surprising. I guess in his mind, he values the Pandora's Bench more, like the rolls more than actually just making 10 in that spot. It's hard to say what he's actually looking for with the Pandora's Benches. I think it's important to keep in mind that you're supposed to be constantly scouting the lobby, trying to see what people want and what people don't want, right? For example, if everybody in the lobby is rerolling 2 costs, you should probably consider rerolling 2 costs as well, because it's very likely you'll be able to hit whatever you're searching for. There is one double trouble player, but from the vast majority of the other players in the lobby, it looks like everyone's kind of playing around a standard board. Just to give you a bit of an idea, some of the more common standard boards these days, Zeri Urgot is still very, very strong, especially with the fact that you're able to pop off the mods. It basically just buffs the comp, which is kind of surprising that they would do that. I mean, obviously they did turn down the numbers a little bit, but even then, Zeri Urgot is still a crazy, crazy strong default comp. It's probably one of the main default comps you should be running, especially because you're able to check to Zon, knowing it's an offensive / adaptive Zon mod every single time. There's actually a image that's been trending on Twitter. Oopsies. That's been trending on Twitter recently, talking about the different chem mods, and you're actually able to see like which mods you can sort of expect to see just based off 2 Zon. I believe Mortdog retweeted, I believe Lil Kahuna, who is a challenger level player, actually posted this infographic. I'll put this in the description below. Basically, you now know for a fact if you get an offensive Zon, either the Robotic Arm or the Virulent Bioware, you will either likely get either one of these 2 or one of these 2, and you can sort of figure out the tree. I don't know how exactly helpful this is, but this is something that you can keep in mind. But if you do get Adaptive or Virulent, it's very unlikely you'll hit Robotic or Virulent, or sorry, Jesus Christ, Adaptive or Shimmer, you won't be able to hit robotic arm until 6 Zon, which is kind of an important distinction to make. Again, I'll leave this inside of the description below if you want to go. Excuse me, if you want to go check it out. Sorry, I had some bubble tea, so I'm a little gassy. Anyways, get off the bunch of components here. We do hit the Zeri and the Gwen right out the shop, which is kind of crazy. And again, shifting stance is probably all about. Yeah, he just picks up the Sejuani. Nice. Kind of a high roll. It's actually funny enough, this Sejuani, I don't actually think fits on the board just yet. I think it fits on just a little bit. We don't have Gunners from the looks of it, so this current Nox support is actually probably our strongest board. I know a lot of people just like tech off of the Swain immediately, but I actually think this Noxus board is just slightly stronger. But seems that I might be correct in my analysis because this does not actually put the Sejuani round on the board just yet. But because we are trying to play around whatever we hit, we are going to be playing around Zeri and the Freljord variation because we did hit the Zeri already with the Sejuani. Going to the 3-2 Augments, Tiny Grab Bag, Challenger Heart, and Unified Resistance. It's sort of obviously not Challenger Heart. It's just Unified Resistance every single time in this spot. You can reroll Tiny Grab Bag, see what else you can hit here, but there isn't that much more that you could hit in this spot that's actually that great. Jewel Lotus is kind of a really nice augment. I think it's super slept on in my opinion. I know some people don't really like it, and especially because we were talking earlier about how a lot of comps are secondary and tertiary carry comps. Jewel Lotus kind of loses a bit of its value there because your secondary carry won't be able to get the Lotus. Unified Resistance is always great as well, but we actually do find Zon Heart. Now, Zon Heart is a really strong augment in general. I think nowadays, people are sort of leaning really towards the vertical 6 Zon. Obviously, you would rather have the Crest and maybe get Unstable Chem Tank so you can play around that J4 Kamikaze, like, you know, Kamikaze J4, if you will, right, with the Zon Chem mod. But unfortunately, if you don't get the Crest, you are not allowed to sort of tech into that kind of technology. But Zon Heart is still really great because 6 Zon with the overcharged Zon mods are really, really strong. I think earlier today I saw Soju playing a bunch of 6 Zon vertical and actually doing decently well with it because it's definitely very great once you have all the conditions in place. Really strong stuff to be considering. Unified Resistance, again, really nice as well if you want to just kind of play a standard Freljord board. But I think Zon Heart actually has a debatably, like, I wouldn't say it's the highest cap, but it's a very, very high cap. And it's much easier to hit the cap for Zon Heart than it is to hit for Unified Resistances. Zon Heart sounds like a decent choice, but both are totally fine. I am a simp for Silver Jewel Lotus though, I will say though, so maybe in my spot I would actually take Jewel Lotus, but I mean in this spot I think you take Zon Heart every single time, especially because he does not actually have a Warwick 2 just yet, so getting that extra Warwick bumps his, you know, the potential of him hitting his Warwick 2 really early and spiking his board really nicely very, very soon. It does seem that he does not actually do the Pandora's Bench trick very often. I don't know if he's just being lazy or not. He definitely knows what it is. But the Pandora's Bench trick, for those of you who don't know, is that as soon as your shop refreshes, you can actually buy a unit from the shop and then throw it onto the Pandora's Bench before it re-rolls the units. So, for example, I want to see if he does it here. He does not. But basically, for example, he could have taken the Taric here and then swapped it over into the bench quick enough and then re-rolled for a 3 cost that he may have wanted. The only 3 cost you can maybe want is Lysandra, but even then, it's not even like that much better than the Swain 2. The Swain 2 is a Swain 2. It's very strong, especially after the buffs. So, I mean, this is just going to be his current board, and we are cruising with a 4 Zon board with 2 Freljord. Again, Pandora's Bench. You really want to be playing around whatever units you are finding as soon as you can because, you know, you're basically guaranteed the 4 costs that you're looking for. Okay, hold on a minute. It's been a minute since I've done one of these commentaries, okay? I feel like I am talking out of my ass. Listen, Pandora's Bench. I'm gonna say this while the video plays at regular speed so I don't lose my train of thought. Pandora's Bench, play around whatever you hit, but lean towards S tier comps. Okay? I feel like that's an important distinction to make. You can play whatever you hit if you're playing standard in Shifting Sands, but lean towards S tier comps. Zeri Urgot. I don't even know if Aphelios is S tier really, to be honest. But Zeri Urgot is the big one you should be leaning towards every single time if you know you're going to try to play into this. Because you are basically, as soon as you find one 4 cost, you're basically guaranteed a Zeri as long as, you'd have to low roll pretty hard to not find it. But you should lean towards S tier comps whenever you can. It's even possible to maybe try to lean into Ari Bel'Veth in this realm, only because if you are able to find if you're able to survive with decent enough HP throughout the mid game, you can just start rerolling 5 costs and find your Bel'Veth, find your Aries, and then try to play around those. It's a very difficult playstyle. I don't really know how viable it actually is, but that's something to keep in mind. Shifting Sands allows you to force the strongest comps that you can think of to try to play into those comps. Obviously, if you can try to play a strong, unique line, that is definitely the best way to go about it, just because there are some lines, for example, Vertical Zon, that, you know, you don't have to be constantly rolling forecasts to try to find everything. You're really just looking for the Zeri and the Urgot, and that's about it. Also, this soap, he is making economic thresholds whenever he can. In a super try-hard sweaty lobby, he would make the economic threshold, the shop refreshes next turn, and he picks a unit up, able to fill in this one extra gap on his bench, and then making sure that he's able to garner value out of it every single time. You do want to garner value out of your Pandoras Bench whenever possible. So here, rerolls again, finds a Kai'Sa, and again, like, you would never play something like Kai'Sa Yasuo inside of Shifting Sands, or at least really try hard not to, because it's not an S tier comp. I would say, in general though, reroll is probably the strongest in this realm, but that doesn't say that you can't play standard and try to play around a different form of quote-unquote reroll. Right now, because we are playing around Zeri Urgot, we know that's going to be what we're playing around, we can just keep rolling forecasts until we find a Zeri 3 or an Urgot 3, and that's sort of like a win condition, if you will. Otherwise, you can also just go fast 9, or rather, not fast 9, but you could tempo to 9 after you 2-star the Zeri and the Urgot, and then you're basically chilling for like the entire game. We're level 730 gold. We don't have to roll at all. We're Zeri 1 with Urgot 1 and 6 Zon. Our board is very, very stable. Also, nobody across this lobby is actually really playing around Zeri Urgot. Maybe that is because people noticed that Dish Soap is playing it very, very early on, so they don't want to lean into it. You did notice maybe like a round or two ago, some people were rerolling 2 Zeris. So, I mean, maybe that's an option, but also I think in general, the higher elo you go, people don't like to contest each other because they know they don't like to hold hands. Now, going into the 4-2 augments, Infernal Contract, Radiant Relics, and Well-Earned Comforts. Now, again, like we talked about, Well-Earned Comforts, we briefly mentioned this before. Ezreal's 4-2 Well-Earned Comforts, the prismatic version especially, is actually really, really, really nice. And it actually synergizes really, really well with Buried Treasures because your units gain 120 health and 8% attack speed for each item equipped. That includes components. So it's basically like cybernetics on crack. It's actually really, really nice. And especially if you're playing something around like Zeri Urgot, Well-Earned Comforts works really, really well with Zeri. So actually, if you're leaning Zeri this patch, you might want to take Ezreal because it actually might work out pretty well in general with Zeri. Now, Radiant Relics and Infernal Contract, these are okay as well. Infernal Contract is actually kind of crazy good in my opinion for this realm. The reason why I think it's actually crazy good is because you wouldn't play it specifically for this comp in particular, but when you're playing around, let's say you're playing around a 3-cost reroll and you hit Infernal Contracts, you get to basically 3-star your entire board. Like your entire board. Like imagine you're playing Noxus reroll, but every single unit that is on your board is 3-starred. That's basically what Infernal Contract is with Pandora's Bench in this realm is. You basically are reroll almighty, and you just get to reroll whatever the fuck you want, and then you basically get to send it down this turn and just 3-star literally fucking everything. It's actually kind of insane. You do lose a little bit of value though, because again, you are playing in Pandora's, but it also has a much, much, much crazier cap compared to a regular realm. But again, we're playing Zeri Urgot, that's not really an option here. Radiant Relics is eh. Not sure if we really want to take it here over Well-Earned Comforts. Probably going to reroll middle and right side, see what else we can find here. There isn't much else that we can find that's actually like that much crazier, but I mean, nonetheless, it's still like, maybe we find something better. Social Distancing is actually a really crazy strong augment as well. Depending on who you are though, maybe you don't like him more than Well-Earned Comforts. The thing about Social Distancing is that it's a strong generic augment. But is it better than Well-Earned Comforts? I don't really know. It's really hard to say. That's more of like a stats angle. If we had stats, I would check it here. I don't know. Social Distancing is actually better than Well-Earned Comforts with Zeri. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. I know some people would argue that it is, and I mean, it's fair enough. Like, this, it's not like this comp limits you to having to clump anywhere. In fact, you probably don't want to be clumping in general. We do get Golden Egg as well, and it looks like this soap actually ends up going for Well-Earned Comforts over Social Distancing, the prismatic version, which is insane. I guess to him, the 24% attack speed plus the little bit of bonus HP is just way... Sorry, I thought I was hearing things. There's this ringing that's going on. I don't know what it is. There's a ringing that's going on. You can't hear it, but I can hear it because I know the frequency is too high for the microphone to pick it up. But it's really weird, and now it's gone. Am I going fucking insane? Anyways. Yeah, Social Distancing doesn't take it, takes Well-Earned Comforts. I think in his mind, the justification is that well-earned comforts basically gives attack speed. Zeri actually likes attack speed more than flat damage, so that's probably the reasoning behind it. Also, Gunners gives you so much AD anyways that you don't really care too much about. You just kind of want to dish out more attack speed. That's probably the reasoning. I don't really know. Maybe he thinks that Comp is really bad in this lobby, and that's totally acceptable as well. But nonetheless, we are cruising right now. We are fucking cruising. Right now, we are playing some really crazy boards, though. This guy is Rek'Sai 3. Which is kind of insane. Rek'Sai 3 is sort of popping back up on people's radars again. I don't actually think it's that good. I think it's okay. But actually, funny enough, that one loss puts us down into like 6th place. Look at the HPs of this lobby, by the way. 73, 371s, oh sorry, 271s, a 69, 67, and a digital 64. It's 4-4. It's 4-4. And only 2 people in this lobby, Cottontail and Crispy Mango, are down to like 10 HP. And actually, I believe one of them is playing around Piltover with 70 stacks. So if Cottontail cashes out, it's going to be a really bad time for like everybody. Crispy Mango, I think, is just having a really bad game. I think Crispy Mango is just playing Sorks or maybe Dragon King. I'm not really sure. But nonetheless, everybody else is super healthy in this lobby. Super healthy. And this is something that you'll see more and more the higher you climb. But the higher you climb, the closer these lobbies are becoming, and every single mistake actually matters. Small position mistakes that could cost you a couple extra HP points could cost you placement. It's really, really bad. The more mistakes you make, the more you will get punished for it. And you might not think it's true, but the higher you climb, it becomes more and more increasingly true. You might hear sometimes top streamers, they'll be like, oh god, I misplaced my units this one fight and I lost like 10 extra HP, or I lost 8 extra HP, I lost 6 extra HP. That might cost me a placement. That's how close and how minute these margins of error are, and how like little these mistakes can actually make. Like for example, this fight, Deersoap leaves his Zeri on the wrong corner and actually doesn't put a unit to 50-50 the coin flip for the Yasuo Tornado here, so he actually gets hard punished here and loses a ton of HP, and this actually could have costed him a placement here, which is fucking nuts. He loses way more HP than he would have if he had just positioned properly, but he was talking to chat. It is what it is sometimes. I get it. I talk to my chat sometimes. I mean, I ain't no streamer. I actually flame my chat a lot recently these days. It's kind of bad. Anyways, level 751. We are getting no more components here. We do get the Urgot out of the Pandora's Bench here. We are still on a Zeri 1 though. We do want to hit the Zeri 2 as soon as we can. Yeah, there you go. I don't know why he's on the bow on the Ash. It's definitely Titans on Urgot here. And then either Hodge or Chalice. It depends on the type of player you are. He goes with the Chalice. Chalice is actually kind of can't be slept on as a tank item. It's not like a Dragon's Claw by any means, but Chalice gives you 45 MR. It's actually like nothing to snooze at, and a little bit of starting mana so that you're able to cast quicker. So that's actually kind of insane. Here the bottom 2 actually unfortunately lose out. Cottontail does not get to cash out his 70 stack T-Hex, and Crispy Mango dies as well. But this is leaving us with a lobby that is relatively very, very healthy for stage 5. It's actually kind of insane. Here we see Digisoap is actually slowly just selling like basically everything off that he can in order to try to hit this Zeri 2. He actually sells everything he possibly could. Even if he were to sell this Kai'Sa here, he'd have to sell the Scion pair in order to buy the Kai'Sa, buy the Zeri, so he doesn't. But notice how he's like I need to hit now. He knows immediately, like, I need to hit now. If I don't hit now, I'm actually going to have a really bad time because there's no way this board is going to stay stable and I'm going to be able to stay at this HP. So he rolls it down as deep as he can, finally finds his Zeri 2 here, and then he's able to save up and go to 9. Now our board, again, most of it is completely upgraded. I think the Ash is the only one that isn't, and we are sitting very, very comfortable. But again, if you are playing in this realm, this is your expectation. Like, all your units should be basically upgraded because there's no reason not to be able to hit these upgrades. He actually positions the Zeri in the middle here, which is really cool. Tries to dodge the Yasuo ulti, which he does effectively, really great. And this is how the last fight should have really went, more or less. Maybe he would have lost the last fight before, but it should have been significantly closer like this one was. 37, 37, 47. We are looking at a lot of like really close HPs. The margins are very, very tiny. Here he picks up a little bit of anti-heal on top of the Sejuani here. He does garner a little less value out of this Chalice here. I guess he just doesn't really care about that little bonus bit of extra AP. But he does pick up the Sejuani here. My assumption is that he wants to just... He wants a little bit of anti-heal on his board because he doesn't have any. But on top of that, it's just because he wants to have some extra 4 costs to be rolling on his bench. And he's going to be rolling those to try to hit Zeri 3 or God 3. Trying to find one of these as his win condition, because trying to go level 9 in this lobby is sort of a pipe dream. It's like almost bound to never happen here. Just because it's really difficult to go... Like, you need what? Like fucking like 76 gold? 78 gold? In order to go 9 here, it's so expensive. It's going to take way too long. And especially considering how healthy and close this lobby is, it's going to be a bad time. Now we do see one player, Daddy Kink Uwu, okay, like 7 HP, having a bad time. Maybe it's karma for having his account named that, but I mean, you see that he's really low HP here, and again, the margins are tiny. Every single like close loss, every single loss is like starting to add up here, and we are starting to see the top 5 starting to emerge throughout this lobby. As you can see, as we fight every lobby, like notice the other players' boards too. Like everybody has really upgraded units here, which is actually just insane. Everybody's boards are fully upgraded. Here we do have a Zeri parry here, which is really, really nice that we're playing around. And again, we're trying to play around these 3-star forecasts. It's basically just the name of the game. As you can see here, as we talked about earlier, 2-star Bel'Veth, 2-star Ahri is definitely possible within this realm if you're able to survive long enough throughout the mid game to try to cap out with some legendaries with some 2-star 5 costs. Here we do get an anvil. We do just hit the TG and as well as the Lesser Nico. We do duplicate for the Ash, so our board is entirely upgraded. I also find it interesting that this sub actually prefers Echo as a main tank over Warwick. I don't know if that's just based off the stats or whatever, but surprisingly, I think he just values tank Echo more than tank Warwick, which is sort of interesting. I don't think I would ever do that. Also, just Echo has the chem mod, the unstable chem tank, which is something that he does have on the Echo here, just to have a little bit of extra frontline. And here we're gonna slow down a little bit. Here he actually finds the Gwen 2, which is kind of interesting. He wants to roll for potentially trying to hit this Zeri 3, and he's gonna keep rolling here, and he's getting surprisingly kind of close. There's actually another player in this lobby, the Yasuo player, who actually is already sitting on 6 Yasuos. He was sitting on 6 Yasuos like from a while ago. So as you can see, because everyone is playing standard, everyone is trying to roll their Pandora's Bench to try to hit these 3-star forecasts to try and win out the lobby. But as soon as one person hits the 3-star forecast, everybody else is going to start to rapidly try to find theirs as well. He does actually find another Zeri here, and he's going to start rolling down, trying to find everything else, and he does eventually find the 3-star forecast Zeri, which is kind of insane. He's actually the first one to hit in the lobby, so he's actually sitting at a very comfortable spot. But again, once one person hits the 3-star forecast, a lot of people are going to start hitting 3-star forecasts. So here we are fighting into the Rek'Sai player. It is a top 4, which is really, really cool. But because we are, you know, playing in Shifting Sands, this 3-star Zeri, like, is it a win out? It's hard to say. All it takes is one other person to hit the 3-star forecast, and suddenly we're not looking at a very simple game here. We're looking at a very difficult game to try to cap out with. I would say in this realm, 3-star forecast is probably easier to use as a win condition than like 2-star 5 costs like Bel'Veth, Ahri dual carry, just because it takes a long time to get there, and it's hard to stay healthy throughout the mid game in order to get to that spot. Usually playing standard and then playing into 3-star forecast is probably one of the better ways to play around this realm. Trey Yill hits the Gwen 2. This guy's actually double trouble with Teemo 4, which is another really, really strong comp that's been garnering a little bit of steam recently with the Teemo buffs. Which is kind of interesting to see. I don't really know if it's really good with double trouble. I mean, I'm sure it is, but I mean, would you rather play that around, you know, 3-star Teemo or 3-star Taliyah or 4-star Teemo? I don't really know the difference. It's probably 4-star Teemo actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But going back real quick, just rewind the clip a little bit. 3-star Yasuo. So now we are fighting into this guy who's actually not only 3-star Yasuo, 3-star Shen. Holy shit, this guy hit. So this guy's Ionia Bel'Veth, 3-star Yasuo, 3-star Shen, and we are sitting on 3-star Zeri. So, I mean, it's just simple maths. 1 3-star forecast or 2 3-star forecasts. And, I mean, obviously, 2 will be 1. That's just always how it is. He actually positions Zeri in C1 to try to dodge the Yasuo ulti. I don't think it really does anything on top of the fact that this Shen is kind of just a beast. I will say, though, it's kind of closer than you'd expect it, though. Only the Shen and the Yasuo are left alive here. But we are hitting the Urgot 2 here, and now we are closing in on the final 2 fights here with 3-star Zeri and a potential 3-star Urgot. So, going to 6-7 here, it is a very, very long game, but we are closing out. And hopefully, if we hit the Pandoras here, we do not. We do have to roll here to try to find this 3-star Urgot, or we are turbo doomed. Here we find the 2-star Sejuani here. Actually, our opponent is holding the Urgot as well, so we're actually going to sell our Urgot to try to find more Sejuanis. Don't find the Sejuani 3 here, unfortunately enough. And this is probably going to be the final fight, because how the fuck is this board going to beat this other guy's board? This guy, by the way, he's level 10. He's level 10. with just a bunch of like really crazy stuff. But nonetheless, it's a 1-unit loss. It's actually pretty close. And at the end of the day, unfortunately, it is a second. But Dish Soap, once again, showing us why he is one of the best players in North America, closing out the game with a 3-star 4-cost Zeri. Really, really good stuff. And I hope to see more people playing on this realm because it actually seems kind of interesting after watching this game. But anyways, I hope you guys learned something. Take care and happy climbing.